Can you see?
So, yeah, everything's good.
Good.
Now, in relation to, say, Newcastle Girls High School and Newcastle, what effect or what impact do you think that Newcastle Girls High School virtually has had on this town? It's a very big question, so I might take... What part has Newcastle Girls High School, I think, played in the changes and development? Has it been the people, the school, over the years, do you think?
I think while it was in what we perhaps call its heyday, before they closed our selectory schools, Newcastle Girls High was an institution that was, well, we'll say first of all respected. Not that that benefits a town, but it's something there that's a contributing factor towards helping our young people further their education to a certain standard. We were identified as something worthwhile. As we left school, we contributed to the town. One of the huge contributions from our schools, girls and boys high, would be, I don't know if they still have them, cadetships in the industries. And of course, Newcastle was hugely industrial. And the people that went into science type or industrial type cadetships like metallurgy, industrial chemistry, whatever else those girls from my year went into, Lysites and Rylands and the wire rope works, into the laboratories, into the water board. Our school, because of the huge emphasis placed on things like science, led them into, I can think of more than 3 or 4, just in my time, that won prestigious chemistry scholarships that led them into that sort of lifestyle that these girls, they have contributed with a standard in the workplace because of the way we were. The standard in the workplace is a funny thing to say, but it comes from being conscious of doing something thoroughly, that you then do a good job and you see it through to finish, and you trim around the edges, you clean up. I think Newcastle Girls High School was, like the other selective high schools, a part of the town that people looked upon with pride. That we perhaps were thinking of ourselves in nice light, not just sort of envying Sydney for having the sort of high schools that perhaps would have just been theirs, but no, we had decent education, we had decent institutions, and we were proud of them.
Do you think it's maybe because, I mean, I look at it, and we always come across Newcastle, is that here we had a high school of the standard that you would get in Sydney, but it was in a town that we recognise as Novocastrians, that believes in its people, that, and we're small enough that in a place like Newcastle, no one can do anything in Newcastle and get away with it because there's always somebody that knows you. So
that's right.
We have, and you have in that school, at the standards of Sydney, but you've also got the people of Newcastle.
The parochial.
Yeah.
The people who are proud to be here almost despite Sydney. You look at the football followings, you look when the town's got trouble, you look at the way the people rally. It's the same with our schools. Perhaps in an industrial town, we're always ambitious to have better than just industry, and we proved that we could. I can remember back in the school on the hill when those well-educated men and women would win places to the Sydney University. It was reported in one of the old school magazines I read that somebody from Sydney said, oh, it's another of those Newcastle people coming down here. They're really becoming quite overcrowded, but they're quite famous, aren't they? Yeah, we were proud of coming from Newcastle. We wouldn't have been able to be proud if it hadn't been for Newcastle Girls and Boys High School or the school on the hill.
So why do you think, what's the importance of retaining the history of these schools?
It's an era that perhaps we'll never see again, regrettably. It was a time where they threw the baby out with the bathwater. It was a time when there wasn't anything broken and they shouldn't have tried to fix it. They wrecked it. What's the significance? of recording these histories. Perhaps somebody might get a bright idea from listening to them and looking at them, and that perhaps there's some good things to be had out of what people have remembered about the place. I don't know. We often joked that if we won the lottery, some of the boys and girls would say, we'll set up a fighting fund to re-establish selective high schools. Well, they've given us a token selective high school, and it is just a token. When you think of the area it's got to cover, Merriweather High School is a very small token compared to what we had taken from us. I suppose there might come a time when the sort of standards that allowed us to be as we were and to achieve as we did might return. I don't think a lot of them will ever return. Those old-fashioned ways, that some of which were very good, have gone. But there's still a need to maintain a standard of behaviour towards the people you're among, and we were encouraged with nice behaviour. You asked me about people who were jealous or nasty. I didn't feel that. And it's funny, maybe you ask some other people, they give you a different answer, I don't know. I think it is important that history is recorded, and I think it's important that people learn from history, because if you can't learn from history, it's a pretty sad old state.
Well, Viv Allinson said to me, and I always remember this comment from her, if we don't respect and record our past, how can we move into our future?
And if you don't learn lessons from what you've recorded in the past, if you don't look back and at least think what was good or bad about that we won't repeat mistakes or enhance on performance because of what we've seen they've done. She's right. If you don't record it, there's nothing to look back. And what do you look forward to if you don't know what you've looked back on?
Is there anything, I suppose, from our interview today that you feel we haven't touched on that you'd like to record today as part of this story, your story, and the story of Newcastle Girls High School?
I think the majority of people who I speak to in regard to our school or activities pertaining to the ex-students' union would probably be along my lines. And I speak to a lot of them frequently. And here comes another reunion in a week's time, and I can only think that they come in great numbers. We'll have nearly 300 to this reunion at West's on Saturday the 13th. And the next day I've got a special reunion just for our 59 leavers who are now 55 years since we sat the leaving and left the school. I've got at least 30 coming. The last time I held a reunion, I put in a bit more effort and I had 70. From what did I send out? 140 letters, I had 70 people. I think I'm so grateful that I was part of an establishment as I was. I think I'm pleased that it gave me the qualities and standards it did, whether it was deliberately taught, but that's the way we were. There must be things I want to talk to you about and tell you about. Perhaps I'll write them down and we'll have another go another day.
Thank you so much for today.
My pleasure. Thank you for interviewing me.